right, real quick, our preferred partners. They're not random sponsors. They're companies that have already proven they help indies win. So we want to share something that might change how you think about scaling. You don't need to hire to scale media. I know, it sounds too good to be true, but that's exactly what over 50 indie agencies discovered with Path Labs. They basically become an extension of your team. No headcount increase, no benefits to pay, no management overhead. Look, we all know media execution is getting harder and more fragmented every day. New platforms, new formats, new requirements. It's exhausting. Path Labs simplifies all of that so your team can focus on what they're good at: strategy, creativity, and growing client relationships. They give you a single point of entry to all the media tech and activation you need. No separate contracts with a dozen platforms, no extra hires, no tech overwhelm. Want proof it works? Over $200 million in media spend managed. Over 6,500 campaigns launched annually. 90% agency partner retention. This is their human-led model in action. Reliable execution, fast onboarding, and people who answer the phone when things get a little crazy. If you're ready to pitch and win bigger media opportunities, find out more about Path Labs at indieagency.partners.
Hello, I am Kyle O'Brien, and welcome to another episode of Meet an Indie Agency. Thanks so much for joining us. Today, we are going to the great city of Austin, Texas, to talk with Britton Upham from McGarrah, Jessee. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for being a part of Indie Agency News.
Hey, Kyle.
Glad to have you here. All right, so tell me a little bit. Are you guys on your 30th year now?
Thank you. Yes, this is a big year. So we're going to celebrate that probably August, September from a timing standpoint. But yeah, 30 years of indie. Wow, I think that's a thing. I don't know how many. There's a handful out there, but it's pretty
There
cool.
are a few. There are a few. I think Doe Anderson's our oldest at over 100. But hey, 30 is huge in our industry. So thanks for taking the time. Let's get right to it. Tell me a little bit about what is your agency best known for in the 30 years you've been around?
Yeah, well, I mean, the industry always changes, so it's kind of, how are you evolving with it? Our thing, which has been consistent, is building these like iconic lifestyle brands, and that's maybe a bit what we love doing, but it's also what we hear from the outside. Like 9 out of 10 phone calls come in, they say, well, the shorthand is they say, we want what you did with Yeti. And then you have to unpack it because you're like, well, you're a perfume brand or something. Like, what does that have to do with hunting, fishing, and coolers? And when you get into it, they usually go, well, we love that, like, they had a single product or a single niche core following. And then in 5 years' time, you were able to build them from a single following into this global lifestyle brand that had multiple use cases, multiple customers in multiple regions. And you did that without kind of messing up the brand. Like it evolved into something bigger than it was in the beginning. So how did you do that? And we want to do that, whether that means new products they want to release, or it means they want to get into new regions. That tends to be kind of the consistent thing, which is we want to create a lifestyle brand that has a unifying mindset across all the things we're doing that people can subscribe to. Great.
So feeding off of that, then, what are your top 3 core strengths for the agency?
Well, I would put that through this, so we just had our company meeting a couple weeks ago, and that's an annual thing we do to sort of vision set for the year. Sure. And what we're talking about more kind of internally is we're building Indie Amplified. So we're an indie. We're talking to the indie folks, and it's sort of like, what flavor of indie are you? Because there's 14,000 agencies out there, and yes, those agencies are of all shapes and sizes. And so what we see is, right now you've got like the holding companies. There's a lot of activity going on up there with mergers and everything, and they're a certain breed of shop. And then you've got lots and lots of indies of different shapes, sizes, and varieties. And we're sort of like shooting the middle, because what we see is there's like these cracks in the floor. I mean, you can read the trades, but there's these cracks in the floors of the holding companies around transparency, around, principle-based buying, trust, attention, those kinds of things that have them sort of wondering about indie. And then you look at the indies, and there's a little bit of a glass ceiling over a bunch of them where they don't really want to get into data science and media and those kinds of things. And we've been in media since '96. and data science to us is a part of how we do that well. And so we've been making investments in those areas to really sort of split that middle. And so if you sort of like harvest that down, it's kind of like craft at scale. And if you were to pick, I mean, if I'm thinking about three strengths in the middle of that, I'd say one is it starts with the data piece. It's like harvesting those unobvious truths that make creative work great, and finding ways to connect with people in such a way that like the truth strikes and they feel seen. So that'd be the first piece. The second piece would be showing up for people. That's been a part of who we are for as long as we've been doing this. Like we feel like we don't want to hawk stuff at people. We want, on behalf of brands, we want to really be there with value in people's lives, whatever that value is in that moment. So that could be, in one moment, it could be inspiration, like, hey, I want to get into a new category. Or in another moment, it could be information, like, I'm in the aisle and there's 12 products. Why is this one, twice as expensive? There's probably a reason for that. Or it could be like utility. How do I open this thing without cutting my finger? And there should be like charisma in all of that, because that's the brand personality. But we really want to be thinking about how we can be valuable in each of those moments and really just bring things to people, not sell at them. So that would be like showing up for people. And then I think the third one, this ends up being this has also been sort of happening on the other side of this commitment. So if you do those two things well, but you do them extremely consistently, we see like a fandom coming out the other side, this irrational fandom where people are like, wow, you're seeing me, you're showing up for me, you're doing that so consistently. I know who you are. You see who I am. We believe in something similarly, and I want to use this brand as almost like a platform for self-expression. And that fandom becomes something that we see as bigger than even loyalty. It's something more emotional than that. So that's the flywheel that we work on.
No, that's great. I mean, those are three solid reasons to come to you as an agency. So let's get into the indie part, since you've been independent now for 30 years. Let's talk about why independence is so important to McJ.
Well, it's funny, like on the one hand, I think about it, I have a 6-year-old and I think about how hard he works to try to punch through his parental guidance. Like at 6, he wants independence. I got this. And so I think there's this part of every person that, and every individual that they want to march to their own drum. And that's a consistent thing, I think, with all indies. The way we talk about it is like, we report to our values and to our clients' brands and to the work.
Right.
And that's it. We have no other reason to belong or to subscribe to every day. And that's meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I mean, I'm sure there have been times when you've taken a phone call and they say, hey, we'd love to make you part of our network or things like that. How do you resist that kind of pull?
Well, I mean, that's a great thanks to Mark and Brian, the two founders of this company. So yes, I mean, there's so much activity out there right now. And really over the last 15 years, I mean, it's literally every day there's another email in the inbox about an acquisition or, we're interested in this or that. And that's just not what we got into it for. We got into it for the love of it. And we also have built something now, that has a culture around it. We actually retain people for a very long time, twice the industry average. So there's a feeling of ownership here, and we're not really interested in selling that out. And it comes down to sort of this concern that when does that happen in such a way that the culture survives positively? And if there were a way, maybe, but that's, we just don't see it that often.
Yeah. And what about your clients? I mean, do they come to you seeking kind of that independent thought, that that independence, and to help them break through? What are your clients saying about you being independent?
Yeah, well, we're seeing it from all sides right now. It is kind of that I see stuff sort of falling through there are a lot of clients that are looking for an agency partner that is sort of fully suited, fully served, can handle all parts of the business, which doesn't mean you're doing all parts of business, and so that's kind of the way we approach the room. We are full service. We do design, we do events, we do, social, we can handle productions, media, data science. we want to lead and guide brands forward. But whereas maybe 10 years ago, clients were outsource shopping for somebody that could do all of it, and those were great years. Now it's more like we can handle all that if that's what you're looking for, but we're also totally keen on just obsessing over all the touch points. Gotcha. With a partnership that you might already have in place. So you might have other agencies for parts of the task of the brand experience, or you might have in-house teams do parts of the tasks. Maybe it's an IAT setup. Like for us, we're like, we just want a partner that goes, I care about it all. I'm obsessive about every one of those touch points. We have this saying sort of internally where we say, above the line, below their line, there is no line. Like customers, they don't see where they are in the funnel. They're just experiencing the brand. And so we think you have to obsess about all that and present one consistent portrayal of who you are in truth and what you believe in across all those touch points to truly succeed. Because it's just too noisy out there otherwise. People can't see what your truth is, and then they can't subscribe to it. You have to be obsessively consistent. So we just kind of go in looking for that partner, whether it means doing more or less with us. You know, we want to be a guide in that process, and we tend to take a lead position in that.
Gotcha. And we've touched a little about this, at the very start. But what is one of the main reasons that a brand would come to McGarrah, Jessee, and want to work with you?
Well, all these relationships start with, do you like the people on the other side? So I think that's usually stage 2, because first you see the work, you see things that maybe the agency's doing, it resonates with you. We hope and hear that it's kind of on the lifestyle brand side of things, that people are going, wow, I can see how they can expand and grow brands in a way that they sharpen their drum, they louden the drum as opposed to make it more confused. And then when they get in, you hope that they're connecting with the people on the other side, and that's just getting to know people in the relationship. That's what really endures long term. But for a currency standpoint, it's really the fandom piece. What we see is when we do what we do, what comes out the other side is this irrational fandom. And we truly believe that fandom is bigger than loyalty. Like, to us, loyalty sounds like a contract. Like if you think about your marriage or something, are you in your marriage or are you in your partnership because you're loyal? That sounds like, well, I'm doing it because I said I'd do it, or are you in it because you admire the person and you respect them and you're having fun together? So, that's the relationship we want to create with brands. And what we see is when people reach that place, they start to use a brand as a form of identity. Like, if I want to express who I am to other people, it becomes one of those platforms that I use to express my interests and my passions. And I co-create with brands. I invite and recruit others in. I defend those brands. Once that starts cooking, these folks, they stay with you through thick and thin, recessions and things like that. It's really good for business. And so we're also building out right now with our data science team a way to measure all that. It's kind of like an NPS score on steroids. It measures all the different degrees that would go into what a fandom score would be. And so we can start to prove that when you're really sailing in that area, that sales go up and to the right. So that would be a big reason why we want them to come to us. But that's for us to show. So
yeah, that's true. And you've worked with plenty of brands over the years. What have you learned from those brands that have helped the agency grow and thrive?
I think the biggest thing that I've learned, like an internal lesson that we can take to our people to help our clients and then also stay focused on the value we can provide, is that what if beats no because. And I just mean, like, organizations get big and they want to create a partner. And many times that looks like an indie, because indies are feisty and they bring, outlandish ideas that push them.
Right.
But when it gets into the organization, and we all know this really well, there's a lot of other stakeholders in the organization from different departments that have to somehow institutionalize that idea. They either have to fund it, they have to get boots on the ground to try to make it happen. It's a partnership between the idea and the execution. That's a partnership between the agency and the clients, because they own the activation, they own the actual experience. And so once the bigger the area, the harder the idea. And it's hard. It's big because it's hard, right? Because if it were easy, it's probably already been done 10 times. It's not interesting. So I think you have to find organizations that go, if you brought me a hard one, that inherently that's probably pretty interesting. And what will make us different is the fact that we took it on. So how do we take it on? How do we say yes if? Yeah, we could do that if that. Yeah, I suppose we could do it if we did this, as opposed to no, we can't because of that. Whether that's in operations or HR or finance or customer service, wherever it is, they have to have a yes if culture. And so it's upon us to inspire that. It's upon us to make those relationships in other departments and show how we can succeed together. But that's definitely something that I've learned. I think related to that, I was thinking about this the other day. I went to college and I majored in business and I minored in art. And when I was majoring in business, there was a course called organizational behavior. And it was part of the original curriculum. It was a liberal arts school, so you sort of had to pass through different phases. And this early phase was organizational behavior for business. And I didn't even know what that meant. I remember the textbook was a huge textbook. And it had to do with how organizations are set up, obviously. And what I realize now, looking back, is that agencies are deeply in the organizational behavior business, right. Meaning client organizations, the structure and politics of those organizations directly impact how successful you can be at bringing ideas through them. And I think it's really, I've learned that you are at an agency, you are in that business. It's smart to recognize that and get into your client's business and see how they work and get to know people to try to get things to sort of sail through in the right way. So anyway, those are a couple of things about.
Gotcha. Okay. No, that's all good. Let's talk talent a bit though. You said you had one of the highest retention rates of indies, or what was your number again?
Yeah, we have, you can kind of say it's about half the industry turnover. So people come and they stay a long time.
So coming out of college, or maybe they're looking to switch careers, switch agencies, why should talent put McJ on your list?
I think we think about it as ownership. Some of that comes with indie, so when you come into an independent company, depending on the culture, you have an opportunity to own it and to build and to contribute to that culture. We created something a handful of years ago that was we called it the culture cards. I keep a deck on my desk because I'm always sort of fumbling with them. But there's these cards that they represent virtues and values, lores, legends, and things. And we do other stuff like this, but this was an example. But the reason I bring it up is because we want people to come in, maybe see something in these values. I mean, it comes up during interviews too. So you should subscribe to a company, not just go get hired by one. You should join it and then add to it. I always say stay new to any new employee for as long as you can, meaning you're bringing an outside perspective. That's valuable to us. Challenge the norms. And so the culture cards were a way to onboard people and get them to see what they've joined. But we always end that it's a tour that they go around and collect them either online or in person. And I would say at the end, I'm not here to push these on you. I'm here to say these were born out of the people that got here before you in service of the idea of the place. I hope in a few years, there's one in this deck that came from something you did or something you believe in that we did. So that's the first reason I would hope people come here, is they see and believe that they can make an impact on shaping the next generation of what our mission is. I have another thought if we have time for it. I don't know. Yeah. The other thing I have, the thing I mentioned was, we do have great retention here, and that's awesome. And then we hear from people when they interview, and we hear from freelancers too. They'll say, "Oh, it's different. It's different there." Hopefully, for the values that we want. And our values are things like ownership, do the right thing, challenge your bias every day, show up for others, beyond obvious and unexpected, build mutual respect, those kinds of things. We live these things. I'm cutting them short. But
Uh-oh.
it sounds like a great place to work and that the people are great. So that's why I want to go there.
Can we stop and do that thought one more time? You froze there for a second. So do that one thought that you just told me.
Oh, I'll just cut to the quick. I was just saying how people come here for a lot of those values, and I'm glad for that. And then we will hear that people will say, "Oh, I want to be there because it seems like there's really great people there." And we want that to be true, and that's a marvelous compliment in truth. I would rather people come here because they want to do the best work of their career. And that's what we want to push on folks and invite people into. And in my mind, I have this kind of idea with where kind of agencies are going today, which is I really want to build the Montmartre of agencies, and if it was the 20th century, near Paris, like that was the block. You had like Gauguin, Rousseau, Picasso, Langston Hughes, Gertrude Stein, like philosophers, jazz musicians, playwrights, poets. They were all there. You had to be kind of in that multi-corner block of Paris. And I think if you look at full service shops, that's what we've evolved into. We have data scientists, producers, media folks, strategists, researchers, designers, photographers, retouch. They're all in this place, and all the brains are different. They're all a little different in great ways. If you can start to recognize that diversity of thought is a really amazing thing to be a part of every day, I think that's a really great reason to come to a shop like this or other indies.
Yeah, absolutely. What things do you have in place to kind of keep people there, keep people growing within the agency, so that they're always being challenged?
Yeah, well, a big piece. I know a lot of people are dealing with this right now. So we were born in Austin. We call it Austin, USA, because we're now in 22 other cities. So we've got 22 other backyards through our remote workforce. So most of our people are here, like 60-something%, but there's another 40% in 22 other places. We have to work very hard because we see that as a positive. I mean, one, it gives us more of a national footprint. If we're picking up clients on the East Coast or West Coast or other places, we can say, or even in Virginia, we can say, hey, we have somebody that's actually just 20 miles from your office. And that's kind of nice. On the other hand, it also brings in just a greater diversity of perspective. Where they are drawing their inspiration from is now in all the pockets across the US that are so vastly different. And that's really cool because we're all drawing on the culture around us to incept ideas that are meant to land in America somehow, an America that should be diverse and challenged. And so we have to just work really hard to try to keep that bonded culture together. And so there was another program we did a couple of years ago, which was called Found and Unbound. So this was after we had launched into what we call Unbound, which is our 22 other cities and wherever else. You can live anywhere in the US. We wanted that community to feel like, why don't you start to flex those inspiring touch points? And so we created a whole day TED conference that was just for ourselves called Found and Unbound, where we actually went out and we picked inspiring creative talents from all these different communities. And we had like 10 to 12 speakers throughout the day representing all the new communities of McGarrah, Jessee beyond Austin. And it was really fun. So it's turning your creativity onto yourself. I would say that's a big part of how we try to retain people is we're all day long thinking about things that we could be doing for the clients, but you can also turn those talents onto yourself to create a bonded environment.
That's great. That's fantastic. And I love stay new, by the way. I think that's stuck with me so far. And I really like that. It's just kind of that concept of like always have that curiosity and always have that kind of, new feel, even though sometimes that's uncomfortable, but oftentimes it's like, okay, the wow factor. So I love hearing that.
I really believe that, I think there are these, it's helpful to point out catch phrases that people use and make sure that they get, sort of sent out of the building, so one of them would be, we don't do it that way. You know, like I would go like, hold on a second. Like there are probably some very good reasons, some things we don't do, but that we should always be able to challenge that and make sure there's a good reason on the other side. Like have that debate for a second and then let the truth prevail.
Yep. Nope. That's great. All right, here we come. It's the block we like to call weirdos, misfits, or underdogs. So do you consider yourselves weirdos, misfits, underdogs, or perhaps maybe a mix of both? You can, or all three. You can tell me and choose it however you like. There are no wrong answers here.
Well, you know, we are in Austin, which is keep Austin weird. That's kind of a long
Absolutely.
going, you know. So I think there's probably a bit of that. I think of so I'll lean into weirdos, but I would call them individuals. Like I think Austin and this agency in America, it's really built up communities, and you know, communities are built up of individuals, the healthy ones, you know, that every individual is seen and recognized for who they are. And I think every one of those individuals, they want to feel a sense of I'm welcomed, but they don't necessarily want to feel like I have to be like everybody else. Every individual wants to feel like they're known, seen, and appreciated for who they are. And that they, as 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1, you know, equals a community that serves the individuals. And I believe that's what we're doing. That's what we're also representing on behalf of brands out in the world. We want to help brands see the individuals and help the individuals be seen by the brands in a way that it amounts to a mass appeal.
Gotcha. Yeah. Sounds good.
Celebrate the weirdos, celebrate the individuals. Yeah.
We all are one of the, or all of the above. So, and it could be, and on any particular day, I could be one or the other. So, all right, now you get a chance to do a shout out. So, any CMO marketer that you've worked with, that you want to work with, anybody you want to shout out, now is your chance.
Yeah, I couldn't help but think about Jenny Britton. So Jenny Britton is the founder of Jenny's Ice Cream. But she has the same last name as my first name. And so when I discovered that, I was like, wow, because I'd been just pounding her ice cream for years. I just really, it's an awesome product. And then I had that moment where I was like, oh, this person, and I was like, I need to meet her. And I actually wrote to them because this is the degree of my love for that ice cream. I will just sit down with a pint of it, and I will just go right through it in front of Netflix. And then I'll hit the bottom, and I'm trying to like round the perimeter of the bottom to get like and one time I went straight through it with the spoon. So the spoon was sticking out of the bottom. And so I took a picture of that and I sent it to them, and I was like, I need to meet you guys. Like, I happen to work for a brand marketing firm. I can only advocate for what you make. So maybe a shout out to Jenny Britton. The attention to the recipe, these different notes and flavors, the devotion to the craft. Now they have the retail experiences that I go to with my son. It's a really cool brand. And I know Jenny's gotten into fiber bars now, which is really smart and progressive. You know, I think we've seen a really strong protein boost out in the world. And I think fiber's next. She's on that wave. So hello, Jenny.
That's a great one. All right, Jenny, you heard it here. Jenny Britton Upham from McGarrah, Jessee. McJay, thank you so much for joining us. It has been a pleasure to talk to you, and thank you for being a part of the Indie Agency News. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Kyle. Yeah, we're happy to be a part of your network, and thanks for fighting the good fight out there and making noise for the indies. Thank you to Doug, and happy to talk anytime.